The big news on this Thursday as we roll into a long weekend is that the Supreme Court agreed to hear a case over state restrictions on which school sports teams transgender students can join. It is something that we've been talking about for a while, and West Virginia's Attorney General J.B. McCuskey joins us. He's had a busy tour of the media today. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Amanda. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you. All right, so let's just start at square one. Tell everybody what happened today.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court granted cert, which means that they have agreed to hear our appeal of a Fourth Circuit ruling that the Save Women's Sports Act was unconstitutional under Title IX. So what that means functionally for our office is that we have to prepare for a Supreme Court argument, which is it's quite an undertaking.
Yes.
It is an incredible honor to get to go to our nation's highest court. And just as sort of an aside, what's really interesting about the Supreme Court in Washington is that it is identical to the Supreme Court in West Virginia. Cass Gilbert designed the Supreme Court after he designed the West Virginia Capitol, and he used the model of our Supreme Court chambers to create the United States Supreme Court.
That's
so when you're
interesting.
sitting there as a lawyer here in West Virginia who spent a lot of time at the West Virginia Supreme Court, it is comfortable to sit there because it looks so unbelievably similar. The only functional difference is that they have 9 seats instead of 5.
Okay.
But other than that, it looks exactly the same.
Well, it kind of makes you feel at home.
Yes, it really does.
Behind the scenes today, I'm still sitting in my seat, even though I need to be sitting in Dave's seat, because when you feel like you're in your spot, you feel like you can do a good job.
That's
and
right.
Perhaps that's what you're saying here.
Well, and the interesting part is that theirs is modeled after ours, not the other way around.
Yeah, nice.
Ours was first. But what this means is that we have to get ready to defend the legislature's action here.
Okay.
And our legislature in 2023 passed the Save Women's Sports Act. And what it does is it says that the biological differences between men and women matter in sports, and that you have to play on the sports team that matches your biological, the way that you are biologically put together. And that's important because girls deserve to have a fair and safe playing field.
Sure.
And the way that you put that together at the lead-in, I think makes sense. We're not trying to stop anybody from playing sports, right? We want every kid to enjoy sports, but what we are trying to do is to make sure that those playing fields are fair.
Who will be handling this case at the Supreme Court?
We have a solicitor named Michael Williams, who is one of the best lawyers and people I've ever met. Michael is revered throughout the country as just one of the best constitutional lawyers you'll ever find. And we will put together a team of people that will ensure that he's ready to go. And it would be difficult for me to be more confident in anybody than I am in Michael's ability to go to the court and represent West Virginia well and to ensure that this law is found constitutional, not just for West Virginia, but as when you're at the Supreme Court, it's going to have a ripple effect on the playing fields across this country.
It sure is. You've been on CNN today. You've been on talking with national news outlets about this. What kind of a reaction are you getting today from other like-minded attorneys general?
Yeah, I mean, everybody is really, really excited that we are going to finally get some sanity back into this process. And I think when we say the word sanity, it was really interesting. Just a couple days ago, the University of Pennsylvania, which is, a lot of our Ivy League schools have a liberal bent to them, and University of Pennsylvania is no different, but they went back and they apologized to the female athletes that were affected by their policy of allowing transgendered women to compete against women. And
that was Leah Thomas. That's one that's grabbed headlines for years now, and that everyone kind of knows is like that benchmark.
Yeah, and when you watch her give interviews, the physical characteristics are so noticeable almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And so I think this all gets back to this idea of just common sense and how should we be creating an environment for athletics for women and girls who have long been sort of left behind in the athletic world. And we finally sort of crested this mountain where you have people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and you have, obviously so many wonderful tennis players, the Williams sisters, Coco Gauff, et cetera. And they're all making incredible living, and they're getting, college scholarships. And, the other part of it is just if you've ever played sports, and I played a lot of competitive sports growing up, my kids play it too, the payoff for hard work, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody expects an outcome, right? You don't work hard because you think I am definitely going to win. You work hard for an opportunity to win on a fair playing field. And that is where the life lessons are learned. Is I got up at 5:30 this morning and I ran 10 miles and I went to the gym, and then I then I lifted weights, and then I went and ran again. And the people that work the hardest generally get ahead. But sports is incredible because you don't know what's going to happen, and all the people playing against you are doing the exact same thing. The only thing athletes ask for is a fair playing field, and this is doing that, and it's doing it in a fair and a constitutional way.
This case involves Becky Pepper Jackson, a girl, a transgender young woman in the north central part of the state. And some people might argue, okay, we're talking about kids, that aren't fully developed. They have not reached that physical peak just yet in their life. To that, you say what?
I would say that the age doesn't matter. What we're talking about here is fairness. And we know that there are physical listen to me. Tripping all over my words, Amanda.
It's a holiday.
Yes, okay. There are the differences in physical characteristics between men and women, and they start at a very young age. And, our hope here is that we can start to put people on playing fields where they are going to have the best and fairest result. And that, and the age of the child, in my opinion, doesn't matter there.
You're a dad. Sometimes kids, we were talking about the foster kids earlier in the situation in the state of West Virginia. That's
another case that we're involved in very heavily.
Yeah,
we'll be in the Fourth Circuit on that one later on this year as well.
We'll have you back on that.
Yes.
But, sometimes kids get caught in the middle of adult issues, and that's tough. And so I guess I just wonder, as a dad, as you move through this process, how do we protect our children? Because they are still children. The Supreme Court is a big place.
Yeah, I think that really gets back to this idea that we aren't preventing anyone from playing sports. The teams are open for the biological sex of every single player. And what our hope here is that we can get back to where people are playing on the team they're supposed to play on. And the other thing about kids is that kids are good. And kids are going to ensure that everybody that's on their team is comfortable and feels welcomed. And I think that that will probably be even more apparent when kids are playing on the team that assigns with the biological sex that they have.
The ACLU posted earlier today, the ACLU of West Virginia, breaking the Supreme Court announced it will hear our case challenging the state law banning trans students from participating in school sports. They went on to say lower courts were right to block this discriminatory law and others like it, and we will continue to defend the freedom of all kids to play. This will play out in the Supreme Court in the fall.
Yeah, and the ACLU there has made a pretty significant omission there. We're not arguing that kids can't play sports, right? There is a team that is available for every single student athlete in West Virginia, but that team will be full of people that share the biological sex of the person, of their fellow teammates. And so they're trying to make this argument that this prevents people from playing sports. It does not. It prevents people from playing sports against people who don't share their biological sex.
Well, we'll be following this one for sure. You're here. We're talking about sports. I'm going to ask you about the NCAA.
Yeah.
You knew that, right? What's the latest there?
The latest is that we have some answers from their questions, and I don't really want to get into it until we know what their sort of changes are going to be.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to sort of explain the middle of the process.
Nope.
And the tournament isn't going to be around for a little while, so we have a little bit of time. But they, like I've said before, we've been in constant communication with them. They've been fantastic to deal with, and
it's nice to hear that, because oftentimes you hear we have these incidents, things happen, and then it's like, oh, everybody makes a big deal, and then it simmers down. And so it's nice to know months later, after this tournament snub, the basketball tournament snub for WVU, that you're still in contact with them.
Yeah, and I think it's really a testament to, when you approach people with a problem in a kind way and you say, look, man, you messed this up. How are we going to fix this thing? As opposed to, I hate you. Yeah. How am I going to destroy you? That isn't the way to move forward here. And I think we've generated relationships with the NCAA that will be long lasting. And when you approach things this way, everyone ends up with a better result if you're patient and understanding of the people who've, probably done you wrong.
We live in a wonderful country.
We do.
What are your plans for this Independence Day?
Well, I will tell you that my children have they're at Aunt Liz camp this week. So they went to go see my sister.
That's awesome.
And so my wife and I have a few days of quiet in the house. And I think we're going to do almost nothing. Our hope is to quietly and introspectively celebrate the birth of the greatest country in the history of this world. And I may or may not have a couple of cold beers, and I will definitely be having lots of hot dogs.
Well,
So,
enjoy every second of it.
We'll do it.
Attorney General J.B. McCuskey, we appreciate your time today. We know you're busy. Any other national news appearances tonight?
Yeah, I think I'm going on Fox at 2 and CNN again at 5, and then Fox again tomorrow morning, and then Fox and CNN again on Saturday.
Okay, so a real holiday.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.